Chandler, and I'm from the Public Policy Center at the University of Hawaii. And it's lovely to be here. It's always nice to come to the Big Island. I know you have lots of challenges going on in your island, and so we're really very pleased to see so many people. You can't hear me? See so many people here, and we're very interested in hearing your concerns and your issues. I'm facilitating this task force, and tonight we are having a public hearing. So we have additional members from the task force from the House of Representatives, and I will introduce them and then introduce our chair, who will explain the process for the hearing today. So on my far left is Dr. Richard Cregan, and thank you very much for joining us. From my close left is another doctor, Cliff Otto, Chair Della Albalati, who is the chair of the House Health Committee. And we have Peter Whitaker, who is at the Department of Health. He has the opportunity and the job on January 1st to take this project and make it run, right? Isn't that your job?
That is.
That's it. And then we also have Greg Takayama, also from the House of Representatives and a member of the Committee on Public Safety. So that is our group tonight. We may get some additional people. We, again, appreciate your interest in this topic, and I will turn it over to Representative Albalati, who will explain how we're going to go about this public hearing.
Good evening, all. Thank you again for coming. Again, my name is Della Albalati. I just want to reiterate again what the purpose of this public hearing is, which is to accept public testimony on issues and concerns regarding dispensaries in Hawaii, and any input on the updated report received from the Legislative Reference Bureau on September 2nd. That Legislative Reference Bureau report that updates their 2009 report is available at www.publicpolicycenter.hawaii.edu. If you go through that page and find the programs, and you go into that tab and then go into the medical marijuana program, this, along with many other resources that the task force are looking at, is available for the public. Again, I want to thank you. There's a couple of thank yous that we need to do before we start. I really want to thank, and he's not present with us but might be joining us, is Representative Richard Onishi, who helped us get this facility in coordination with Mayor Billy Kanoy. So we really want to appreciate them for their assistance. And then we have today with us Ken Okimoto, production coordinator with Naleo of Hawaii Community Television. What's happening today is that the public testimony that we've gathered through our email and that we'll be hearing from you today is being digitally saved by Naleo, and then all of this information is going to be passed on to the other 20 or so members that comprise the task force. I'd like to just review very quickly what the protocols are for this public hearing. We have received numerous testimony online, and we will go through that. I'll announce those names very quickly. I want to reiterate that all of the public testimony that we receive, particularly via email and any that might be submitted today, will be provided to each and every member of the task force as we move forward in our deliberations. I will go through this list, and then we will go through the testifier list of individuals who may not have submitted their testimony online or previously. Because of the expected turnout, I'm going to kind of guide this process, and we're going to be looking at approximately 2 minutes per testifier. Again, I want to emphasize, we do have all of the written testimony. Anything you submit will be given to everybody. So let me tell you, this task force has been very diligent in reading through much of the good input that has been provided. So please do not worry that your testimony is not being heard. Yes?
Sorry, two quick announcements. There are some additional chairs. If you want to come back and fill them in, looks like we have a standing room only crowd. There are also some chairs, I think, over there, so if you'd like to get them and sit. And the other thing is that we're talking fast about this website, and it really is a wonderful resource, and we've got the whole name of it written out there on a yellow piece of paper on that table. So if you would like to go back and get it at your leisure, you can then upload, look at the website, and you'll be able to get this report, all of our minutes, announcements, all kinds of resource materials that we're trying to make available to the public. All yours.
So we want to get through this expeditiously. we are here to take public testimony, and we ask that, because we want to make sure everybody is heard, that, I'm going to gently prod people along so that we can get the maximum use of the time we do have here. In the event that we spill over time, some of the task force members may have to leave because there are flights to catch, but we do have some contingency plan to ensure that everyone is heard. And then I will be staying back if need be to continue the public hearing. So please rest assured that you will be heard today in one fashion or another. So with that, let's start. First up, we have Lee Eisenstein, Christopher Takvar, Justin Henderson, Howard Haggart, Guy Shepard, Ted Hellman, Dr. Myron Burney, Matt Binder, Diane Corcoran, Bobby Baxter, Leah Kuntz, Lynn Dugan, Jennifer Martin, Andrea Tischler, Michael Ilio, Alan Buddy Lee, Mike Rugels, Matthew Brittain, Wayne Miller. If I call your name, you can come up, and if you want to add to your testimony, you're welcome to. Have I run through many names? Okay, let me go through this one more time. So if you hear your name and you want to come up and add to your testimony, please come to the mic. Lee Eisenstein, Christopher Takvar, Justin Henderson, Howard Haggart, Guy Shepard, Ted Hellman, Dr. Myron Burney, Matt Binder, Diane Corcoran, Bobby Baxter, Leah Kuntz, Lynn Dugan, Jennifer Martin, Andrea Tischler, Michael Ailio.
And so I did sign up for testimony. I can do it now.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So the point I wanted to make was that I think the objective of the dispensary legislation should be to benefit the economy and the people of Hawaii. And in order to do that, I think we need to develop a class of small, well-regulated medical cannabis farms. And the first thing we would do is to authorize inter-island commercial transportation of bulk medical cannabis between the islands. And secondly, we would create a class of specially qualified caregivers that would be able to take care of 25 patients at a time, anywhere in the state of Hawaii. And the example of how this might work is that a Big Island caregiver might register with a dispensary on Oahu, and then a patient on Oahu would visit that local dispensary, and the dispensary itself would connect the patient with the caregiver on the Big Island. And then the Big Island caregiver would begin shipping medicine on behalf of that patient to the dispensary in Oahu. In terms of regulations, this would be a brand new industry that we would have to establish quality, safety, and security standards. Grower guidelines would have to compel strict record keeping among farmers. The farmers would be subject to inspection by regulators, of course, and third-party testing companies would certify medical cannabis against mold and pesticides. We have over 13,000 medical cannabis patients in the state of Hawaii. If we assume 7 plants per patient, that's 91,000 plants statewide for our crop at this very moment. That's the current demand. If we have caregivers who are providing care for 25 patients each, we can have 520 caregivers serving all of the entire stock of patients in Hawaii, in the state of Hawaii. So I think it's important to move this industry into the light of taxation and regulation, and to reinvigorate the local economy and to create jobs. That's it.
Thank you. If we are able to get through the testifier list, typically in these types of hearings, there is an opportunity for task force members to ask questions. So that will be something that if we have the time, we will accommodate, but we really want to just get public input. So I just want to let you know, if you want to stick around for a potential Q&A, you may do so. Next up, Alan Buddy Lee, Mike Rugels.
Yeah. Good evening. Appreciate you guys coming. Want to give thanks to Willow Sparrow for recommending it, and we're happy to see you guys on the Big Island. I'd like to point out that there's been a lot of bills. They've been trying to fix this medical program since it started in the year 2000. I believe there's been over 250 bills that have crashed on the rocks of the legislation in the last 14 years. And so I'm so glad, because you guys really are the answer. I think that the legislation will listen to you guys and will actually finally make some headway. This year is what I'm hoping. But as they were pointing out, and one of the questions you guys had was, how do we bring medical marijuana into the future? Well, I think, one of the ones on dispensaries answers your last one, which is how do we stay out of harm's reach with the feds? And that is if you get over 1,000 plants, whatever dispensary you have, now the feds can step in. That's a federal offense. And no matter what you guys say or whatever the state says, the feds can say differently and it'll be a problem. So please consider that when you're thinking about the size of dispensaries. Plus, as a medical grower and a caregiver, I realize that it's really hard to grow, to have a business like the size you guys are suggesting. If you're thinking just 10 dispensaries, if you add it up, a dispensary, if you have a guy just doing 10 minutes at the door, each person, they can only take care of 50 people a day. And that's a line, lined up outside. Only 50 people a day, and you got 13,000. So I won't keep you. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matthew Bertain, Wayne Miller.
I would just like to add one thing to my testimony, that I really don't understand why it takes a whole year to decide what to do. You guys have been looking at it, we got markets out there, people are doing it, mistakes are being made, corrections are being made. To say it's going to take a whole year to look at it, to set up a dispensary system, seems to be just putting it off further and further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Scott Williams, Brittany Neal, Brent Neal, Scott.
Yes. Sorry. Okay, a few points to discuss. Full disclosure, I was at the meeting yesterday. I'm a dispensary operator.
Speak up, speak up.
I'm an operator in the state of California, a dispensary owner, as well as a cultivator for multiple dispensaries in Santa Cruz and San Francisco.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Can't hear a thing. It's real loud. It's not
There you go, there you go, that's cool.
There's no PA. That's not a PA.
That's not a PA, okay. So I will speak louder, I'm sorry.
Stand up.
My apologies. So full disclosure, I'm a dispensary operator in the state of California. I have 4 years of experience in the industry from all aspects, from a delivery service to a provider to a cultivator. And I want to just point out some bullet points that I've learned over the course of those years. I've kept very close track of the legislation here in the state of Hawaii. I grew up here, went to Conneaut and Castle High, so I have a personal relationship with this, and I'm here to help. An encyclopedia of information. Please feel free to query me if you have any questions. A few points. First off, dispensaries. I'd like to cap on what Mike said. 10 dispensaries, like I said before yesterday, will create multimillionaires overnight. A good example is San Jose has the same amount of population as the island of Oahu. San Jose has roughly 80 dispensaries right now, and they're still growing at this point. So just to give you a good example of apples to apples. Second is outdoor versus indoor. I implore you to call out the difference. Outdoor, especially on the Big Island, they have a lot of room to provide for medicine, and it's using the sun and using the earth instead of using the carbon footprint. I myself have a cultivation center indoors, and it's a very expensive and very carbon footprint model. I implore you to look at other models such as just indoor because of the cost, just the model, and it will bring the prices down to allow for it to be affordable for patients. Fostering really the patient to grower model, cutting out the bureaucracy, allowing farmers markets, those type of things I implore you to look at. That will keep the cost down. Supply and demand in a marketplace is what really will demand what the market price is. And if you create super dispensaries and you create super warehouses and those type of things, it's going to bring the prices up, and it's going to be very, very expensive, and you're going to still have a black market.
Mr. Rowland, your 2 minutes are up. You can wrap it up.
Yeah. A couple of things, edibles, quality control, so you got to look at that. Lab testing, gas chromatography versus liquid chromatography, and then legal ramifications for a blue card holder. Patients must be protected under this law for testing for employment purposes and other things.
Thank you, Mr. Brittany Neal. Brent Neal. Brad Snow.
Yes?
Brad Snow.
I don't have a lot of science here for you guys. I just want to point my opinion as a caregiver and a patient. If the big pharmaceutical or organizations take this away from the people, it will turn into what already exists in our society. And it's got to stop somewhere. When are we going to quit turning it over to the corporations and leaving it up to them to decide what is good for us, people? Thank you.
Tracy Moorhead. We received testimony from someone who had sent testimony to a Medical Cannabis Coalition of Hawaii. And this was unfortunately anonymous, but we did receive that. Jim Anthony, PhD. And I'm looking at my phone because this was late testimony that came in that couldn't be sent to, didn't come over with us. Elizabeth Bridgingham, Vincent Callagher, Martin Rosenblatt, Victoria Leitzner, Russell Catagnaro, Allison Barrett Smith, Joy Sanguin-Ventura, Michael Tivana, Nancy Harris. Michael Tivana?
The question that's being asked is how to create and administer a dispensary system for medical marijuana. This is very important, and it serves a lot of constituents here on the Big Island. Now, there's 22 states around the country that have set up medical marijuana systems, some good, some not so good. And I recently moved back to the Big Island from the state of Washington, where they're doing some things good and some things wrong. And the things that, I just want to point out two things I hope you deploy so we can guarantee that people have quality medicine. And one is there's a lot of different ways that the medicine is being created now. It's in lozenges, it's in food, it's in cookies, it's in flowers. And what's missing on most of that are dosages. So you need to know what's in the medicine to be able to dose it properly. And that would mean for every island you'd have to have at least one laboratory set up along with it where the people can go have their products tested. That way the doctor will know what's in, and the patient will know what's in their medicine. The other thing is, what's critical is the doctor-dispensary relationship. In the state of Washington, the doctors are forbidden to even mention a dispensary, let alone have a relationship with them. So how is the doctor going to know what kinds of medicines are being served up in the dispensary at what dose? So those two things, have a dosage and an active ingredient list on each product, and have a relationship between the dispensary and the doctor. And we need to have much better quality medicine for the patients. Thank you.
Nancy Harris. Thank you. Good evening.
for hearing our testimony this evening. And thank you for journeying to this island to do so. I think that we can all agree that in 2000, the legislature enacted medical marijuana legislation with the intent of protecting those people who had one of several serious conditions from legal penalties for simply accessing their cannabis medicine. Unfortunately, that law is flawed in several ways. Among them are, although a patient may grow up to 7 plants for medical use, there's no legal way of obtaining those plants to begin with. There's no provision for patients who either cannot grow themselves or have no access to a caregiver to obtain the medicine. A patient's supply of medicine depends on the success of the patient's or caregivers growing and harvesting cannabis plants at maturity, with no provisions for the vagaries of agriculture, the weather, or other phenomena which may have influence on a successful harvest. There is no available way to determine the presence of pathogens or other impurities in our medicine. Patients are often unable to make the best form of medicine for their particular condition, such as the Rick Simpson oil that we've been hearing so much about. Patients cannot travel with their medicine, which is a particular challenge for us on the Big Island because in order to see a specialist, we may have to do without our medicine while traveling to a different island sometimes. Since the enactment of that law in 2000, many measures have been introduced with the intent of improving the legislation. Few have passed. Unfortunately, one of the bills that did pass now requires patients to be certified by their primary care providers, which makes it completely inaccessible, for example, for veterans or for people that attend certain clinics that depend on federal money sharing.
Ms. Harris, I'm sorry, just to be fair, your 2 minutes are up. I'm going to let you go just
I
a
just
little
have a
bit.
conclusion.
Yes, please wrap up. Thank you.
I'm here as a patient to ask you to fix these problems. We patients need to have access to our medicine, whether or not we're gardeners. We need medicine that is safe and pathogen-free. We need to be able to travel to specialists without fear of prosecution. We need to be able to form patient collectives to help alleviate these problems. Large dispensaries may have their place, but with the typical patient here on the Big Island, cooperatives would be most appropriate. In particular, those of you who are part of the medical community, I would remind you tonight of your oaths. You promised, among other things, to do no harm. So please give us legislation that will not harm patients any further by adding additional requirements or by making the only way that we can access our money through the big box store dispensaries. Thank you for your time.
Next up is Barbara Lang, Lottie Tagupa, Carly Wyman, Lottie Tagupa,
Barbara Lang.
Ms. Lang. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you all for being here. I'm really glad to see that there are going to be dispensaries, but I'd really like to, that the local growers should be the ones who supply the dispensaries on the Big Island and elsewhere. And I'd like you to know that Nevada has 2 things. And one is anybody from any state can purchase the marijuana medicine at the dispensary. And it's also a tourist state, and this should apply here as well. And Nevada has a for-profit model, and I think this would be right for Hawaii also. And as far as being concerned about the children, cannabis is in every household already, and people have been using it for thousands of years without one death. And our kids are out there being killed every day because cannabis is illegal. And I believe that we should have at least 2 dispensaries in every district. There will be a variety of good quality medicine, and the local growers will supply the dispensaries. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure to see all of you here. Thank you.
Lottie Tahupa again, Carly Wyman, Homaz Belsky. Now these are folks who signed in to testify. Kenneth Peeler.
Yeah.
And Mr.
Okay,
Peeler,
so-
you have the distinction of being the very first one here at 3:30, so welcome.
Okay, so I'm actually from San Francisco, California, and all that and everything. I know a little bit about Hawaii and everything. And I've been here 3 years and trying to learn as best I can Aloha, Mahalo, and living the good life and everything. I was one of the first person in the nation to be a medical cannabis patient, number 15,025, something like that, 15,015 in the nation, and back in 88 or 89. Every year I've been paying money for one of these, what you call here a blue card. I've always thought it was a good thing that I could put money, because I've always had money, I could always put something towards what I believe in. It's helped me a lot. I'm a disabled veteran. I was injured when I was 17 in the Air Force. And 17, you know. It's now I'm 53, that's like 35 years. I've still got shakes and this and that and everything. But I'm not saying that cannabis is the only thing that helps me. But I'm saying that it's something I've been involved with. But I'd like to change the tone a little bit and everything and say that this is not just a freaking medical marijuana issue and freaking getting high. This is something that is a plant that could change the balance of power in the world and everything with oil and pharmaceutical companies. This is something that we could really make a statement as being part of the United States, but you know, we're in Hawaii. You know, 10th Amendment. As a state, we could do our own thing. I want you to do your homework. I want you to look into the issue of industrial, agricultural, food grade hemp. And I mean it. We could feed the pigs, we could feed the cows, we could feed the butterflies.
Mr. Peeler, your 2 minutes are up, and what I'd like
Yeah,
to encourage you to do
very
is just
much.
wrap it up. Thank you. Brenda Pelletier.
Katie works.
I want to welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, to the Big Island of Hawaii. I really appreciate you taking the time to come out here and listen to us, especially since we have more medical patients on this island than any of the others. I'm Brenda Cloutier. I'm a medical marijuana patient since 2006 in Oregon and since 2009 when we moved here to Hawaii. I live a few miles south of Hilo Town. I'm disabled and I'm unable to work because I have fibromyalgia, which is a neurological disorder that includes widespread chronic pain and is greatly relieved by medical marijuana. I have to break state and federal laws to procure my medical marijuana, plants, seeds, or propagation material. Hawaii provides no legal means for me to obtain my marijuana without breaking state and federal laws. Hawaii also does not provide a legal means for me to procure seeds, propagation material, or plants without breaking the law. There is no other controlled pharmaceutical or herbal medication available in this state that forces the patient to break the law in order to obtain their medicine. When I have a crop failure or a theft, I have to go without my medication. and I need to take far more pharmaceuticals with far more side effects to take care of my symptoms. Gratefully, I am able to grow for myself. However, at times I've had to go without my preferred non-lethal therapeutic herbal medicine due to crop failure and theft. It could be as simple as a bad infestation of whitefly. It could be as bad as a neighbor stealing my medication a week before it's ripe. Both have happened and everything in between. When I go without, I have to take 3 or more times the amount of opioid medication, plus an anxiety medication, a muscle relaxer, and a sleep medication. I heard that. All of these have serious side effects, including the increased potential for addiction and overdose. And I'll just hit the highlights of the rest of this. The patient caregiver cannot legally grow enough plant material for treating major illnesses like cancer and epilepsy. A 3-month barrage for cancer requires 1 pound of material. Look to existing states and their medical marijuana dispensary laws. There's no need to recreate the wheel. Taxation, please do not try to balance the state budget on the back of the sick and disabled. I would like to see the same taxation as based on any pharmaceutical or over-the-counter medication. And I would also like to encourage to allow for grow collectives and co-ops, because it's going to get the most medication to the most people for the least amount of money. Thank you for listening to me. Thank
Ms. Cloutier, thank you. So if you have written testimony to supplement your oral testimony, that's very important to provide us. You can provide it to me or to our 2 hardworking staff back there, Karen, who's with Representative Takayama's office, and wave her hand, as well as Michelle Ibanez with the UH Public Policy Center. You can also supply written testimony to HCR48 testimony@gmail.com by Wednesday, September 17th.
Could we testimony again since?
You can send, if you want to send email
Okay,
testimony.
no.
Written testimony.
I got more. I've been doing this for 25 years, man.
My question is,
Hold on. We still have a few more to go through. Claire McDaniel.
25 years.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, I'm Claire. I'm a retired medical lab tech. Retired since 2007 on Oahu. Moved to the Big Island, not in such great shape. Last year I found myself taking 8 to 10 different medications a day, 2 different times a day. I smoked from approximately age 13 to 1986, maybe 15 to 20 years. And I had legal problems in 86 in Louisiana. I've been in a recovery program since 1986 and was clean except for all the pharmaceutical meds. And my quality of life was not so great. And last year I talked to the nurse practitioner. I have several doctors. I talked to one of them about changing my medication, and she was willing to help me do that. And since I got my medical card, I dropped my medicine list in half, at least half, and it's still going down. I've dropped 44 pounds without trying. I mean, I also want to say that this medical marijuana is part of a natural health type thing for me, not just that particular herb. There's other herbs that are beneficial, and honeys and teas. My son works for a dispensary in Denver, Mile High Green Cross, and those people are already looking at Hawaii as far as coming in when they can, if they can, right? To put in a medical dispensary, and I see other people are also. There are a lot of people watching this that are growing and have dispensaries in other states. I know that I started seeing the evidence medicinal, and I don't know if I got reached here yet.
So you want to wrap up?
I want to wrap up. I saw firsthand evidence of medicinal qualities for my own children, and that's part of it. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was a good decision. for me to go in this direction. My son, I can use him for consult anytime I want for growing and for doctors. But not everybody has a kid, a GT kid over there in Denver doing talk, yeah, for dispensary. So not everybody knows what they're doing. Also, finding, yeah. One other concern I have is that the price of medicine doesn't go sky high. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Rose. Kevin Rose. Someone who signed up here. Kevin Rose. George Clare.
Thank you very much for your attention. It's a great moment in history. I'll just try to read some of my testimony. The demonization of the plant must be ended. The conspiracy of misinformation that has been revealed and rejected by the people of this island in the 2008 election without question one. So there's a great amount of approval for what your work is about. The federal jurisdiction's intentional demonization and classification of the dangerous drug is now encouraging a conspiracy at every local level of government using the funding of drug war policies to create the criminalization of people and the creation of private punishment corporations that envision 25 million people. These people are people like me. I have been a promoter of marijuana, and rightfully so, because it's always been medicine. This whole policy since 1936 is a conspiracy. If you were really care enough to look at the history of it, you would see. So now it's possible for people to use this as medicine. People have been using it as medicine all the time. So we, to provide medical service, have to do a better job than the black market. Otherwise, you won't touch the black market. So there has to be dispensaries, almost everywhere. Wherever you buy groceries, you can buy pharmaceuticals. Almost every grocery store. So I'm saying that we have to quit fearing this. This is nothing to fear. This has been a tremendous 75-year promotion of a conspiracy against the best plant on the planet. Makes more oxygen, makes more everything. So, I also want to say that Las Vegas is giving the tourists Nevada. They're smart. One more thing. I'm suffering from skin cancer, and I do take cannabis twice a day. It takes a lot to be effective. It takes a lot of supply. So I agree with everyone else about local control. We're out here by ourselves in the middle of the ocean. Some of us are just about ready to get cut off from the rest of the island. This volcano flow is after us. I'm one of those people. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Wolf Braun. Wolf Braun.
Yeah. Aloha. My name is Wolf Braun. I'm a retired retail merchant. I've been here for a few years. I am a medical marijuana patient. For me, it mostly is my knees. I have end-stage arthritis of both knees. We patients need ample access to our medicine. One dispensary wouldn't be enough. 10 would not be enough. I think we should have dispensaries in every town. But the dispensaries should be the local growers. I grow 7 plants. Well, actually my caregiver grows 7 plants. And he grows for himself also. And that's 14 plants. Sometimes we have excess, you know. I'd like to be able to sell that at the local farmer's market, or have friends who need medicine come up and buy it from me. one other thing I would like to suggest is that you look into the possibility of reciprocity with other medical marijuana states. Nobody's talked about that. But there are now, I believe, 23 states that have medical marijuana. 2 of them also have legal recreational marijuana. I would like to see reciprocity agreements so that if I go with my blue card from Hawaii and I go visit my brother in Brooklyn, how am I supposed to access my medicine? I'd like to be able to get my medicine there as well as here. So that's my suggestions for you to consider.
William Downs.
I'd like to thank you folks for visiting us. One of my big concerns is that your decisions become too Oahu-centric. You know, I really think you need to make the considerations that are necessary for people that live in, great distances. I do think dispensaries need to be limited in number, but I think they need to be within reasonable distances. I think that you really need to look at protecting, patients' rights of employment. Nobody should lose their job because latent metabolites are found in their systems. We really need to look at protecting people's right to work, even if they're a medical marijuana patient. I think that, for production permits, it would be good to look at them at different levels. Just for instance, you grow up to 10 pounds or you grow up to 100 pounds, and then permit it accordingly. Not where just everybody, is going to grow. It's good, people talk about whether it's, huge corporate or whatever, but I think that there's room for corporate, but I think that there needs to be room for everybody in the system. And let the system work it out. Allow, the dispensaries to decide, whose product or what product they can move or sell, as opposed to just, one source or very few sources. I think it would be interesting if we could, move our products from here to other islands. At this point, I don't know how we would do this, but I mean, they want us, they want Molokai to produce electricity for Oahu. I think we ought to be able to produce, medicine for Oahu. And then the other thing is your dates of putting off another year for this dispensary. One of the saddest things that we deal with as providers is when somebody gives you a call and their friend has just been diagnosed and they're just about ready to go into radiation therapy or whatever. They have no ability to get it legally, so we all have to do what we have to do just to help take care of these people, and we have to risk our own futures to see that the real critically ill people that need it get it. So, I mean, to me, 1 year from now is too long. The other thing is I would ask you to really limit the taxation of it so that we really see a product that is affordable and available to the people who really need it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. I was just reminded by Mr. Whitaker, please, if you have not submitted written testimony, especially for those of you who have just come here to provide oral, it's very important that if you supply us with these ideas via email. Again, we're collecting all of this information, all of these very good ideas that are.
When is the cutoff?
You can email hcr48testimony@gmail.com until September 17th. So please, and you can spread the word out to anyone else who you may know to also send in information if they haven't been able to attend.
We also have a box in the back if you want to drop it off right here if you brought it physically.
I got one
Hold on. Robert Patrici. We're almost, I think, to the end of this lesson.
Aloha, thank you for coming, and thank you for doing the work that you're doing. I'm a medical patient, marijuana patient. My name is Robert Patrici. I have degenerative arthritis, and I use marijuana. It works really well for me. I grow my own, and it is difficult. I lose 7 nails one time, and I had to start all over, so that can take months to redo that. So it'd be nice if we can fix that. I don't want to see, I support this dispensaries, but I don't want to see a monopoly created that's going to price people like me out of the market, and basically create two classes of citizens where poor people can't afford $300, $400, or $500 for something that costs $10, $20, or $30 to grow. And so I just want to, I hope that you'll protect the patient's right to grow, especially for people that can't afford that type of stuff. And that's about it. Oh, when we travel, we cannot leave our arthritis or other illnesses at home. So it'd be nice if we could bring medicine. Thank you.
We have Sativa Sultan. Sativa Sultan. Oh, okay.
Big sister,
Aloha, thank you for this opportunity to speak. Thank you for coming here and listening to us today. This is, in my mind, really an issue about the people who are not able to get their medicine. Think about the pharmacies that we have all over the place, and it would be great to have as many dispensaries as we have pharmacies so that people have access to it. I don't know if your commission is able to do anything about the cost of renewing your license, but it does how you say, prevent many people from getting a medical marijuana license because they can't afford the $200, especially now the law is coming in Zell. People are really suffering here with unemployment. And so we really need the cost to be brought down. If you need a prescription for something that the doctor can give you, it doesn't cost you $200 normally. So we need better access to dispensaries on this island. And we need just full education about marijuana and cannabis hemp and all the medicinal benefits and the benefits in general for this herb. Unfortunately, if you look at the history, it really was Richard Nixon who put it on the Schedule 1. And he's going down in history. We all know he was a liar, he was a crook. And he put it on the Schedule 1 as a punishment for the people who were protesting the war, the hippies, to get back at them. It was really not fair, but it did its job. And so now we have to rewrite a new history for the people of this island, for the world, the country, and recognize that hemp is a medicine. If it wasn't, then all the money they've spent on the war on drugs, usually with all the money that they have spent, we wouldn't even know the name of marijuana if it really didn't work. But all these years we've been so oppressed, we've been under the war, people have been suffering, and so now the opportunity for the truth to come out is here. And it's task force like the one you're involved with, and all the people here that are making the change for the future. Thank you very much. Aloha. Thank
you. Mary Porter.
Aloha, my name is Mary Marvin Porter, and I speak neither as a patient or a caregiver, but as an environmentalist. I'm a longtime activist with the Sierra Club and supporter of a healthy lifestyle, reducing our use of energy, increasing our local grown agriculture, and promoting more sustainable practices. So I'm speaking to you in support of setting up cannabis dispensaries in an environmentally conscious manner that supports sustainability and the small sustainable homestead farm. Please do not set it up as a big corporation-run enterprise. There's much interest throughout the Hawaiian Islands in home gardens and a permaculture lifestyle on a few acres having a mix of fruit and nut-bearing trees, a variety of plants, and domestic animals. The addition of a few cannabis plants would help sustain the economic viability of such ecologically preferable small farm operations. Monoculture on the islands has involved growing crops to ship elsewhere and not provide for the food needs of our people. It has also often resulted in diseased crops and failures at the interfaces. I hear that cannabis edibles have resulted in overdosing. I suggest not allowing any edibles that contain sugar. Just about everybody is addicted to sugar, and there is much information these days that sugar is bad for us and way overconsumed. For many people, their enjoyment of sweets could lead to excess consumption. No addition of sugar would be healthier and hopefully make overconsumption less likely. It would be good to have at least one dispensary or several on each island. It would be good to allow out-of-state tourists that have medical marijuana cards to purchase at dispensaries here. One last thought, it is the human condition to want substances that raise our spirit and heal our body. But we've been so indoctrinated that this herb is bad that most people are afraid to admit in public to its use. Alcohol is the legally accepted choice, and the alcohol and beer industry involves enormous amounts of our money going for offshore purchases, which once shipped in and consumed results in creating a big part of our island trash problem. A lot of wasted energy for a product that often gets overused and causes far more behavior and health problems than cannabis. I believe cannabis to be the more ecologically and healthy choice. I encourage you to develop a healthy, ecological, and small is beautiful approach to setting up a cannabis dispensary. Mahalo for your concern.
Thank you very much. I was just going to ask you that. Henry Collins.
Aloha. Thank you for allowing me to testify. I would like to start by saying I am very annoyed by the lack of acoustics. You have wonderful presentations here by people who are sick, who do not have enough strength in their voice. I'm sitting right up here and I can't hear them.
Yes.
That annoys me tremendously. I want you to know, I started smoking marijuana when I was 14 years of age. There were no dispensaries. I paid dearly for that. I did 17 years in prison because as a result of my smoking marijuana, I came in contact with heroin. And that's happening here today. You present nothing but a sham and a farce until Josh Green decides to legalize it. He's got the control. You're here to hear our views, but you don't even have the acoustics to hear. I'm very disappointed. The biggest proportion of addicts are on this island, and you come at the very end. You've been everywhere else. And today you come to see us. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that. But for God's sake, prepare the acoustics. Be prepared to take a good report back to Josh Green and tell him to go ahead and pass recreational use. You've got all the mechanics set up. Every day that you delay, kids are out there using crack cocaine and other stuff that they come in contact with. You are opening the doors to many other dangers. Moldy marijuana, bad marijuana. Nobody's got any testing of it, what's going on in the streets right now. I worked most of my life in narcotics. When I got out of prison after 17 years, I developed numerous programs for heroin addicts, national and at the state level in California. I have been a part of your panel in the methadone maintenance. I know how dearly you feel about it, but you're not doing anything about it. You don't have the authority. Perhaps you as a representative. Senator Russell Rotterman introduced a bill to legalize recreational use. He did not pass because Josh Green stopped it.
Mr. Collins, you need to wrap up.
Pardon?
You need to wrap up.
I am going to wrap up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
do I get another shot? I don't think you want me up there again.
Matthew Britton?
I'm just getting warmed up.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Britton. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in practice here on the Big Island since 1997. I specialize in substance abuse and mental health issues. I've been active in the medical marijuana industry since it began. I helped to submit testimony to the original legislature to guide it in the lawmaking process. And I've created this thesis of 11 pages I'm going to give to you. It's the beginning stage in my process to guide you. Thank you, Susan Chandler, for helping to produce me. I graduated from the MSW program. Yes. Now, I believe that there really should be a combination and integration of the industrial model and the local co-op model. It's spelled out right here. I've actually traveled to Colorado. I researched their programs. California, I researched their programs. I think that this is the best way to do it, because if you have an industrial model, if they have research and development monies that can help with the local people to define and refine strains and help the entire program to be local-centric as well as have the major input from the industrial complex. There are many issues that have to be worked out, such as taxation, zoning, and all of that is spelled out in here carefully. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because I've already emailed out. You should have my testimony already. But here is this, and I will continue to help you along your path to develop a good workable system so that you can have a stable supply for all of the people.
And we didn't see that, so you have to do all the Alan Lee.
Aloha, members of the task force and people of the community. My name is Alan Lee. Others might know me as Buddy, and I am the publisher of Kalananapua magazine. Kalananapua, which means famous are the flowers, is Hawaii's first medical marijuana magazine. First of all, thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the task force committee, for hearing our opinions and views on this very important matter. I myself am a licensed medical cannabis patient. I am also a cancer survivor that used only medical cannabis and the Word of God to heal my disease. This is all documented in my medical records. I wholly support dispensaries on the Big Island and throughout the state of Hawaii. It is what the patients of Hawaii need to achieve safe access to their medication. I would also like to add that we will need to have some sort of co-op to help keep prices down, to help employ our farmers, and to keep our product locally produced and help Hawaii's economy. It has now been proven that legalization and safe access to medical marijuana is a boon to the local economy, helps employ people of the community, and pays taxes that build our infrastructure, schools, and of course morale. We could possibly even use part of the proceeds to help pay for badly needed doctors and skilled medical help that is critically lacking on the Big Island. I ask that you please carefully consider our submitted testimony with an open and informed mind. Ladies and gentlemen of the task force, I again thank you for your patience, time, and this opportunity to express my views and opinions to you. Have a beautiful and blessed day.
Okay, two more testifiers. So if you have not signed one of these green sheets, you really need to go back there if you want to provide oral testimony to the community, to the task force. Rick Booth.
Hello, my name is Rick Booth, and I've been a medical marijuana patient since 2007. And I only decided to come here today. I support everything that's going on here, but I figured everything would be said that I needed to say, except that recently my family and I have been kicked out of our house because I use medical marijuana. And right now, I'm not getting any help from the federal government because they say it's not legal, so I'm getting no help from HUD or from the Americans with Disabilities Act. I have been referred to the Hawaii, like what Hawaii can do for me, but I am being kicked out of my house simply because I use medical marijuana. And something needs to be done about that. I signed up for this program to be protected, and I'm not being protected right now. My family and I are being put out, and it's a hard time to be put out with your family right now just because you use medical marijuana. I have diabetic neuropathy. It is an awful, awful, painful disease. It only gets worse. It doesn't get better. They've had me on so many different medicines, the strongest opiates they can give me. And I failed out of school. And I'm back on medical marijuana. And I am an excellent student, and I'm going to be getting my degree in December. But I need protection for my family. We don't deserve to be thrown out of our house simply because I use medical marijuana. Thank you.
Vince Callagher.
I'm Vince Callagher, and I've been using I'm a medical cannabis patient. Oh, I'm a medical cannabis patient, and everything's basically been said. Basically, what I'd like to say is I think this would help the economy. Also, I'm not sure where people who have back problems like I do or in wheelchairs, how they're supposed to be able to grow a farm. I guess it's just supposed to flit out of the air somewhere into their lap. It's illegal for them to get their needed drugs. I can't use opiates, it makes me sick. And I have a paralyzing degenerative disc disease. So people like me can't really work out in the field and grow a crop. So where is this supposed to come from? Another point is this will help our economy, and it also when cannabis isn't available to people, young people tend to go to ice or speed or opiates and things that are really bad for you. And so there's a combination of unhealthy environment with dangerous narcotics, boost to our economy, and something that's legal that contradictorily you can't get legally. So how are we supposed to get this medicine that's supposedly legal for us? And I think everybody's saying it really well. But that's my testimony. Thank you very much for allowing us to be able to come here and speak with you.
So I have no other testifiers. Is there anyone here who would like to testify? I see a list coming up. Hold on, there's one more. Megan Isaac, thank you for joining us.
Aloha. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. I wish to state that I'm in favor of regulated access to medical marijuana cannabis for those in need of medical cannabis. I myself am not a medical cannabis patient. I look forward to the day when it's recognized widely as a healthful medicine for everyday health. I've been following the work of Dr. William Courtney, who recommends juicing. He recommends including the raw leaves in one's diet. And I'm really looking forward to that next level that the community can get to, where that will be an accepted use. But in the meantime, I just think it's a valuable opportunity that everyone's here for us to focus on this opportunity for Hawaii to create something that would be really a wonderful thing for our community. And so I would just ask that we please have lots of aloha in it. When I read the comments of Matthew Britton that were published in the paper, it wasn't anticipated that we'd see many people attending today. I thought that actually reflects on how poorly people have been treated for many, many years who've been seeking access to cannabis, and how much fear has been created in the community around this. And I think that it will be the responsibility of this task force and moving forward to change that. So I think that the protocols of any dispensaries should have lots of aloha and lots of reference to traditional Hawaiian values and again that word aloha. And then to bear in mind that this will begin to be a part of the health tourism that we already see. Many people come to the islands to heal, and so that an appropriate pathway for visitors to be able to gain access in a safe way is really important. And I hope that there are, again, protocols built into every dispensary to make visitors welcome.
If you could wrap up, and I
And
noticed
I'll wrap up. I'm from Australia, and I've noted, having returned there recently, that a responsible use of alcohol program is implemented across the nation, and at every level of service of alcohol, those involved in the industry are required to train to learn about the aspects of their responsibility in serving alcohol. And it's done a great deal for public education, and it's improved a lot of safety issues. So I'll wrap up with that, and thank you again.
I noticed you're reading something, so if you have written
I have,
testimony,
and I will
please submit it.
Thank you.
Are there any other testifiers who have not been called? I see this gentleman here and then this one. So, sir, can you come up and state your name for the record?
Good day. My name is Ken Slaughter, First Hawaiian Church of the Holy Smoke. I just wanted to tell you that ever since this medical marijuana law was created, I found that this was one of the most cruel and inhumane ways to administer medicine to people. I had to go to court for numerous people because they were busted just trying to comply with the marijuana law. First of all, 99% of the people, I would say even 100% of the people who became medical marijuana patients didn't even know what the hell a marijuana plant looked like in the first place. And then we were supposed to go take care of our own medicine. And look at, the people are all sick over here. They can't even handle it themselves. You got to go handle chicken coop when you're sick. Think about it. That was a really good, smart thing. Give us a law and then leave us to the mercy of the police. The worst thing was the police. They come and they steal your medicine. Huh? So, when you make the law, make sure that the police don't get anything, okay? Because they shouldn't touch it. Remember, it's against the law for them, okay? They're coming from this negative point. Marijuana is a positive thing, been around before you and me. I didn't create it, okay? It's created by God, given to man. And there's such a thing as folk medicine, okay? We don't even need doctors to tell us about the medicine because we would know on our own, okay? So think about that. We really don't need you. We need you to get out of the way.
my name's Doug Click, and I split my time between the Big Island down in Opekau and Phoenix, Arizona. In Arizona, I'm a medical marijuana patient. Here, not one here. I'm working on that. In Arizona, Apple opened up a glass plant. If anybody here owns Apple product, their glass is all going to be made in Mesa, Arizona. The medical marijuana industry in Arizona is going to out-hire Apple in Arizona this year and next year. So they're just starting the plant. So it's a huge industry, and it's working out pretty well. Nobody's getting paid minimum wage. They're all making a little bit of extra money. Two mistakes that I've seen made in California and in Arizona. One thing that California did is they didn't regulate it enough. And they had dispensaries in neighborhoods and houses next to schools, making huge mistakes with where they let these dispensaries just pop up. They didn't regulate it enough as far as the zoning went. And that's something I think you need to make good note of. The other thing that Arizona did is it destroyed the caregivers. We first started out with caregivers there, and then when they allowed the dispensaries to open, they wiped out all the caregivers. And all these guys here that are caregivers, how many caregivers are here? You guys all comply with the law now, correct?
Yeah.
These guys can make 10 times more money not complying with the law, but they decide to comply with the law, so don't wipe them out. And that's pretty much what I have to say. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here present who would like to testify and has not signed up? Okay, I'm going to open it up for questions and answers, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. I would like to actually make some comments. First of all, I would like to thank everyone in this room for attending. The patients and the caregivers, I know that I heard a theme of a sense of fear in the community, and we want to assure you that this task force is looking at ensuring that there is patient safety, and that the patient is at the kind of the center of where we're going with this program. I know that it's at great risk that you folks come forward. I know that many of you are facing having to recover from the hurricanes, maybe lava coming towards your home. So I really do appreciate you being here on a Wednesday evening to help inform all of us. I'd also like to say that I want to correct some misstatements that were said. There was a sense that maybe you folks were the last community that we came to. Let me tell you, you are actually the first. This is the first public hearing of this task force, and it actually was in fact very deliberate. From the very onset of the convening of the task force, at the very first meeting, we had a discussion about public hearings and wanting to make sure that we wanted to come to the Big Island, knowing that the number of patients here was the largest in the state. So please do not think that you were the last. You are actually the first community we've come to. There was a comment about and a criticism about this being a year-long process, and I want to inform you, because I think as much as you folks are informing us, we need to explain the process to you. We are in the interim between legislative sessions. So the reason why it would take a year is essentially the law that we're looking at, hoping to recommend, and then to enact with the new legislature that sits, is not going to be resolved until May of 2015. So that's just part of the legislative process. And so that's why it may take that long. And I want to point out, we have a very diverse group of people on this task force. To my right is someone you all should get to know very well, Mr. Peter Whitaker, who will be overseeing the program as it moves from the Department of Public Safety to the Department of Health. So we have very good people working on this, and it takes a lot of people. I want to clarify some things that might have been said about one of our task force members, Senator Josh Green. Let me tell you, the legislative process is not one person. So we have to work to educate everyone on this task force, and then of course everyone in the legislature, to get a bill passed. And it's very important, I think, as we move forward as a community together. There are clearly going to be some things that we differ on and disagree, but we want to really maintain a very, very respectful tone. So, it's helpful to see all of you here, and I mean, I am so thankful for all this great feedback we're getting because it emphasizes some of the things that we're seeing in the LRB report. It's informing our discussions as we move forward, and it's going to be it is a year-long process because that is the legislative process. What I want to encourage everyone to do, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask if everyone here on this panel wants to say something, and then we're going to open up to Q&A. What I want to invite you to do is to stay engaged in this process. We have that email, and if you on your way out pick up the screenshot, you can submit testimony until September 17th. We are having another hearing on Oahu, and that's going to be our second public hearing on Oahu. We hope that's going to be webcast, so that if you have computers and you want to watch that, you can watch that online. We have a monthly meeting of the Dispensary Task Force until December. So October 14th, November 18th, and December 16th are our next Dispensary Task Force meetings. We also, because of the partnership with this wonderful woman, Dr. Chandler from the University of Hawaii Public Policy Center, they're convening all of this. So at their website, and you can, on your way out, take a look at what the website is, please visit that because that's where you're going to see the public hearing notices. That's where you're going to see potential discussions that we're having as a task force. And that's where you're going to be able to see the direction that we're taking. And if you want to weigh in, you'll find the avenues to weigh in through that wonderful partnership. And let me tell you, all of us up here, while some of us are getting paid because it's part of our jobs, the Public Policy Center, we asked them to do this and we did not give them any funding. So we, being the legislature, asked. So we have a lot of partners up here, and the way we're going to move this effort forward is to have very respectful discussions like we've had tonight and working with all of these partners. So with that said, I'm going to go from my right. Representative Takayama is a member of the task force, and then we'll work our way down all the way to the center. Representative Takayama.
I didn't have any specific questions aimed at any of the testifiers, but I just wanted to point out that several of you mentioned the importance of supporting small farmers, small producers, and several of you mentioned the fact that you are apprehensive about opening up business to big corporations, big retailers, and so there's a little bit of a dichotomy there because you know that big box retailers offer lower prices just because they are big box, offer mass supply of certain products. So I just wanted more a comment than a question, but you know, I don't know that it's something that our task force can resolve, but I think that I understand the need for keeping prices low and affordable for the users of medical marijuana. At the same time, you know, there are some advantages to marketing at a mass scale. So just wanted to point that out.
I have a kind of response to that, if I may.
Can we, you know, I'm gonna walk through this and then we're gonna have some more questions, okay? And I just want to make sure that everyone is able to offer comments.
That was it for me. Thank you.
Would you like to say anything?
Okay, yeah, it's great to meet you. Before the meeting started, I had a chance to meet with some of you individually. You know, I think when we're patients or we're caregivers, we want to be treated as individuals. We live as individuals, we live as a community. And I think that's really a big part of what public health is. It's treating people as individuals, as listening and understanding their personal situation. And I just really thank you for being so open and coming before us, before each other, and telling your own stories. And I feel like I should be telling my own story too. Well, it's not fair that you guys are telling yours and I'm not telling mine, but when the program does go to the Department of Health, and it's going to be January the 1st, this is a new thing for the Department of Health. Okay? But one of the things I can promise you is we're going to try and focus on patients. We're going to try and focus on individuals and their individual needs. And I think that's one of the marks of public health. And you know, initially when you start applying, starting January 1st to the Department of Health rather than to the Department of Public Safety, I'm hoping you're going to be able to feel a sense of that. A sense of ease, a sense that this is a public health issue, that we're listening to what your needs are. Now, initially some of the forms and the applications and the processes are going to look just the same. But over time, they're going to start changing. And what we're going to try and do is inform you of how those changes are going to take place. And we're going to be setting up a website. We're going to be trying to inform you through a series of different ways. So I'm telling you right now, things starting January the 1st are going to start changing. It's not going to be perfect from the get-go because we've really got to learn how to do this. But we're going to be listening. And today is really a really good start with that. Another thing I wanted to say is on this task force that Representative Belatti just talked about, there are patients and there are caregivers that are on the task force. They're not here with us today, but I think you would be very happy and very proud of your fellow patients and caregivers that really represent you very well from their perspective. So I think that's really an important point. It's not just the people you're seeing here, there's other people that are part of the process. So I'm going to come back a little later with a couple specific questions, but I just want to say how much I appreciate meeting you and look forward to working with you in the coming years.
It's really been an honor to be a part of this task force. You know, people are really giving a lot of time and energy to try to get this right. I think it's terrific that the community is willing to come forward with their concerns, criticisms, as well as strategies. I just want to remind everybody that one of the real advantages of having the kind of legislature that we do and the kind of legislative representation that we have is that there's also a legislative reference bureau, and they have been asked to review each of the other states. This just came out last week, hot off the press. And what they have done is they've looked at all the other states that have dispensaries. Some are really good, some aren't really good. Some are more patient-oriented than others, but they have reviewed every single state and how their state has structured a dispensary system. So what we're trying to do is learn from them, learn from the different communities. We know we're Hawaii and we know we're different and we're going to do it better. But we do have lots of information available about how other states have done it so that we can build our particular program and make it the best in the country, maybe in the world. That's our goal. So thank you very much for sharing.
Is that online?
Yes. This is on that same website we talk about, the Public Policy Center website. We have a little, the address and the back table, there's a yellow card. If you forget it, you can just write Hawaii Public Policy Center and you'll get into our website and then look at programs, and then you open up that tab and all the information that we've been talking about is there. We also have the job of taking this information that we've gotten from you back to the other task force members, and so we're summarizing that information as well as the testimony to make sure that everybody's voice has been heard and all the task force members will be able to hear. We're also going to get it streamed, right? So it'll be on TV, this one as well as the one on Oahu. So we're trying the best we can to get as much input as we can from all of you.
I also wanted to thank everybody for coming out this evening and taking the time to address this important issue. I really feel not only for the suffering that you're experiencing from your debilitating illnesses, but also from the suffering that you've experienced under this program. And I'd like to encourage you that I think this is a time for some real substantial change to occur. As Peter mentioned, the program moving over to the Department of Health and this being treated as a medicine is a huge step. But there are also some other shifts that we're seeing, and I hope that they are genuine. At the meeting, our task force meeting yesterday, the director of the Department of Public Safety, Mr. Sakai, replied to a question and said that indeed the Department of Public Safety does recognize the medical use of marijuana in Hawaii. And that's a huge statement coming from a department like that. Keith Kamita, in one of his comments, also stood up and said, we need to treat this as medicine. I never thought I would hear something like that from members of that agency, but I think that's indicative of policy changes that are happening across all agencies. And I'm also encouraged by seeing how many people came out tonight. I would encourage you to continue to try and stay involved, because it's hearing the local needs of the people that I think are really going to influence the task force. We are addressing the logistics of setting up dispensaries, but my personal hope is that also other needs will be taken into account, such as cooperative growing, possibly delivery systems, and perhaps there's a way of setting up a hybrid dispensary system that can meet the unique needs across the state. So thanks again for coming out. I have some questions as well of some of the people here, but I'll just hold those.
So Representative Cregan, and then we're going to get to questions.
Hi, I'm Representative Richard Cregan. I'm not on the task force. The leadership asked me not to be on the task force since this is my first campaign and wanted me to be reelected. So, but you know, listening, I'm very thankful you all came here. It's you know, I didn't know how many people would come here. I had to drive an hour and a half from Kau, but I'm glad I came. You know, clearly this marijuana is a medicine, and it's a very effective medicine. Okay? In my view, most people who use medical marijuana use it as a medication. It's not really recreation. In fact, when you talk about dividing into medical use and recreation use, I think there needs to be another term for, you know, non-medical use. I mean, because I think it is, to a great extent, medical use. Positive psychology is psychology that makes you better people, happier people, okay? And I think marijuana is a medication for positive psychology, okay? It's not just a medication to make miserable people less miserable, right? It's me making I mean, so I would like to have, you know, perhaps a meeting of my own on the west side of the island, and of course you'd all be welcome to do that. It would be part of this committee, doing my own for me and going forward. And one of the things that came, you know, I had a discussion coming over here with Richard Abbott, who ran for the council and knows a lot about marijuana. And what I'm thinking is this: how many of you in here, if you had the choice for just medical marijuana or just to legalize it, how many would you want to legalize it in this state? Well, because I think that's clearly a choice, you know, and you know, we can legalize it as well as do the dispensary thing. And when you look at other states, there are 2 states that have legalized it. We can look at them for guidance and going forward. But you know, all this complication of dispensaries and all these other rules and stuff, and dealing with the police and everything else, if it was legalized, you wouldn't have those problems. The effects of legalization, you know, how good it would be or how problematic it would be, but you know, look for an announcement or something. I'd like to have another sort of get together to talk about how legalization would look in our island and our state. Thank you.
Bring us back to the questions that we might have. We do have some time for questions. So I'll defer to my task force colleagues. Mr. Whitaker?
Well, that's a hard statement to follow. I
will reiterate, but let me say this, okay? So for the focus of this public hearing, this is about gathering input and comments upon the medical marijuana dispensary process and what to do in the future for medical marijuana dispensaries. And so I really want to come back and focus on that question. And we have very specific questions to some of the testifiers. I'm going to start with Mr. Whitaker.
So if I could call up, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, and I was going to describe him as somebody with a gray beard, but I realized that wouldn't necessarily be that helpful. But what you were saying is you don't necessarily have to have dispensaries all the same size. You should start with, you can have different size dispensaries, and he has sort of like a greenish t-shirt on. Is he still here? No, maybe not. Okay, that was a question that I found particularly interesting because, you know, it maybe doesn't have to be on the same on Oahu as it has to be on the Big Island as it has to be on Molokai. You know, one of the messages I'm really getting here is the importance of local agriculture and small scale. and how does that fit into the system? So one of the things I want to learn more about is, and one of the terms you've used a fair bit is a cooperative system. And I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. Is there somebody that'd be willing to just give us a quick primer on what you think of as cooperative?
So California is recognized as an actual cooperative.
You want to come up a little bit so everybody can hear?
And speak loudly.
In the state of California, they actually recognize a cooperative. They have a different business model that's based on a nonprofit mutual benefit corporation, so you actually cannot make a profit in the state of California under the dispensary system. They do, however, allow co-ops, so you don't actually have to be registered as a nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. You're basically making a pseudo co-opposition of multiple patients and then defining somebody as that provider. So that provider could be a dispensary, that provider could be somebody else in the woods, doesn't really matter. They don't limit that, and they limit on the county level, so it depends on which county. The state has a certain minimum for allowing personal growth, but they do not cap for provider, for example. So you can have one provider for 1,000 patients, 10,000, 505, it doesn't matter. They don't limit that. It's just a matter of somebody being able to say, here's my card, please grow for me. They have an established relationship with me. So it fosters that kind of that farmer to table model versus having somebody in there. So people kind of like these guys are just, a lot of guys, they know each other, they prefer to work with them individually, and it's a much more cost-effective model versus having to go to a commercial establishment and then pay those extra taxes and those extra fees for a certain type of quality control.
So it's really a closed
closed loop system, correct. Closed loop.
How do they deal with the issue of quality control?
So that's a perfect example. So they don't. That's one of the problems with California right now. They're not doing that. So I implore you to look at actually Santa Cruz County. They're very progressive on their laws. They just actually released a report about 6 months ago redefining their county law system. And they defined those type of solutions, so quality control, how things are packaged. Edibles, for example, right now in the state of California, you see a milligram, that's 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams. Well, they don't define what type of milligram it is. What's the THC content of that milligram? It could be 5%, it could be 25%. So there's all a whole range. So they started creating models. So I implore you to look at that. It's like 20-page PDF. Welcome.
Dr. Giovanni, you have
I have a question for Michael Aiello. Hopefully I'm somewhere. Do you mind coming up? Sure. Ask you. I was interested in what you were saying about bulk transportation between the islands.
Right.
And that's one of the things that we're looking at on the task force is this interface with the federal narcotics agencies, which is going to be an issue if you're having material transported because you've got TSA and all that kind of thing. Have you thought at all about the practicalities of how inter-island transport could be protected? I know that Oakland Airport has a policy in place from the Alameda Sheriff's Office that actually sets up a protocol for that. I was just wondering if you've thought at all about the actual legalities and the steps that would need to be taken to set up that process.
Well, the idea would be to move cannabis product from the Big Island to another island, for example. And going from one county to another county in any other state, there's no federal intervention. But in this state, there's a federal intervention if I want to go from Big Island to Oahu. So it seems to me that the only way out is to sue the federal government. Because it's, why would you select us for this kind of treatment? Obviously, we have an ocean, and so our islands are separated by water. I guess the federal government has jurisdiction over the first 3 miles from the shore. But there should be special compensation or dispensation for us because we're treated this equally with all the other states. Thank you.
any other questions from the task force members?
I have a comment to make on that. Just to let you know.
Do you want to comment on the inter-island question?
Yeah. So California, another model. TSA has come out and specifically stated that they are not looking for drugs. They're looking for bombs. They're looking for the reasons why they're there. TSA has also stated if they do come across any kind of contraband, which is illegal in federal government, they refer them to the local authorities. So Oakland Airport is a perfect example of that. They've stated multiple times, people that are trying to fly, even from Oakland to LA or even interstate, if they come in contact, they pass along to local law enforcement. Local PD comes in here and says, okay, you have a medical card? All right, have a nice day, and you're free to go. So it's a very lax model. They're basically letting them, they're referring to that state model for enforcement. So if you obviously create a policy that states that Honolulu Police Department can arrest that person if he has a medical card, then you guys should be good to go.
So as I understand that you're not arrested, but you're not allowed to travel with your
Correct,
medicine.
yes. Yeah, you either have to let them confiscate it or put it in your car so you can go to another one.
I would like to clarify something a little bit. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, several of us talked about wanting cooperation. That doesn't necessarily mean that a big corporate dispensary is out of the question. We would just like for you to also allow space for small groups of patients to form cooperatives.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the task force members?
I have two.
Wait, from the task force members? Okay. I'm just being very aware of the time, so it's 6:36. We do need to let some folks go by 7. We can also convene or adjourn and allow for some time to just kind of talk story. I want to take 2 comments from the audience, and then we'll kind of proceed from there. But I just want to make sure that you have our time is looking at 7 o'clock. Okay. So, ma'am, you have your hand up patiently.
My concern was with the covered condition diagnosis, because I know that there are known psychiatric conditions that are covered at this time. Most of what I'm concerned with is anxiety and PTSD, because I've been diagnosed with those.
Ma'am, your name is, again, I know that.
Claire McDaniel. Yeah. And because public health has taken over, I think this is an issue that needs to be looked at. And I've seen evidence of marijuana acting in a positive way with my children for a long time with their psychiatric issues. And like I said, I just recently, this last year, got off a lot of medications. But I still have the conditions. So they're not going away. It's just how I choose to medicate myself. And one of the biggest reasons that I want to get off the pharmaceutical is because the side effects, for one, that a lot of people have.
Okay. I'm going to ask this woman, because she hasn't actually testified, if you want to come to the table. And then this young lady, and then you, sir, and then this gentleman back there, okay? Again, I'm very cognizant of the time, so if you could state your name if you haven't spoken yet.
My name is Aida, and it's more of a question, and if any one of you can answer this for me, I would be so appreciative. I've never in my life gone on the streets and looked for any kind of drug. I'm not looking to get high on marijuana and then go up to something else and then up to something else, because that's not my need. My need is the medical marijuana. Now, after I got my card, which was easy, I was told to go to the streets to buy it. Anybody up there tell me an easier way? Because, you know, I don't really feel too easy or smooth even talking to people about it. Nonetheless, just to go up to strangers and ask them. Nobody.
I'm happy to respond to that. It's that very reason, and I think, Speaker Suki shared with me one of the reasons why we need to move forward with this dispensary task force and this dispensary system, because we don't want to be telling our patients just go to the.
Yeah, because it really don't make much sense.
So that's one of the motivations for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a quick
lot more, I guess, conditions for reasons for cannabis use. So I mean, I'm lucky. I had a car accident that hurt my shoulder, so I have proof to get medical card here. But really, it's for my insomnia. But they don't recognize that here. So I think it's important to recognize there's a lot of different reasons for people using cannabis.
This gentleman, that one over there, and then we have not been able to testify, and then Miss.
I just have two quick questions. Representative Gregg, you spoke of the big box stores keeping the price down. Have you been to Walmart lately? Do they make anything in America and sell in Walmart? Big box store. How about Home Depot? How about Ace Hardware? They are not part of America anymore. They're all foreign countries. So let's go with a big box store. Peter, next question. I've had 12 helicopters and over 100 police officers checking out my 7 marijuana plants. Does that mean the health department's going to come with guns now too? That's a good question. I hope, because I had enough of it. It's pretty frightening to have a helicopter with an automatic weapon trained on you, and you're just a guy in your yard, and they got a support helicopter above it. They're doing a clean out. They call them compliance checks for the last couple of years because of the LLP law. Now, the LLP law told them they could not use federal money anymore to eradicate marijuana in the county of Hawaii. So they just called it a compliance check. And how many of those guys still got paid and tortured guys like me? That's what I got to say. It's frightening.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, in regards to what Richard Bergen just said, in Colorado, there were 7,000 medical patients. When they set up dispensaries, automatically within 1 week or 1 month, there were 70,000. So keep this in mind. When you set up dispensaries, this whole island is going to give you the whole thing. So let's get off of this little limitation thing that too many people think this is a bad thing. It's not. And not those many people. There's, the silent majority is a bunch of people who are avoiding looking at their problems. And Americans have to solve their problems. So it's got to move. If you guys don't really do a good job, it's going to move right on past you. And it will be legalized.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Sir, can you come to the table? State your name. I did not see you submit testimony, so if you have written testimony, please submit it. Go ahead.
No, I haven't. Sorry. I came later. Was working on a dog emergency. My name is Dr. Carl Ogus. First off, I want to say thank you so much for doing what you guys are doing. It is about time that we have some legal way of treating folks who are prescribed medical marijuana in the same way that we treat every other patient. The fact that we've been forcing people to grow is really clearly unconstitutional. It treats that one group as a different group from all others. One thing I'd like to recommend is that dispensaries of whatever kind should also sell seed. One of the ironies of our current law is that the current law tells you, here are the rules, you must follow these rules. Don't do anything illegal or boy, you're going to get into trouble. The very first problem is there's no way to legally buy seed. If that is an entrapment, I don't know what is. But thank you guys for doing this and for making progress in this area.
Can you do you know any state that allows the selling of seed?
Well, I'm afraid I don't know about how other states' laws handle that.
So I see other people speaking of California. Is California the only state that allows the sale of seed?
No, Washington State and most of the medical states, New Jersey.
Okay, thank you.
Let me say one thing. There's a lawsuit that was settled in the state of Hawaii, in the county of Hawaii, where the feds confiscated a pound of marijuana from a gentleman in this town, and he got paid in a lawsuit. You know who that gentleman was? Anybody know? You guys don't know Roger? He got paid by the county of Hawaii, the lawsuit, because they took his marijuana seeds.
The only other comment I wanted to make with regard to whether to have a large grow type facility model or many small grow facility models. I'm very much in favor of having, in whatever the model is, a way of evaluating what is actually being sold through the dispensaries like they do in other states. It should not be just that people are allowed to sell essentially farmers market style for the safety of the patients. However, we manage very tight regulation of flowers and fruit, and lots of people are involved in those industries. I believe we could similarly have a tremendous number of jobs created by allowing legal marijuana production to become an industry here, especially in small scale where people really need it as a home business. That, with proper regulation, gives us all the safety we need. So thank you very much for your time.
I just wanted to ask why Senator Green isn't here?
He's traveling, I believe he's out of state because he's has family matters to deal with. That's my understanding. But let me tell you, everyone on the task force, and there's a whole list of them, you can see they're all very much engaged, receiving all of the testimony. We're going to try to get copies of this. You know, I believe we're probably going to have more of a packed house on Oahu. So do not worry, there are folks really working hard on the task force for this. Any other questions coming up from task force members? No? Okay. You, sir, and then the person behind you.
I just got one question. You guys said you talked with Keith Kamita and Ted Segai yesterday. And I'm just wondering if he did his demonstration with the butane and the BHO hash.
No.
It's the one he did
No,
for
no,
the full
that's it.
Senate. I don't know. Anyway, what I wanted to bring up was there's a lot of, like they pointed out earlier, you have Phoenix tears. There's lots of different ways of extracting the core medicine from cannabis. And some of the popular ways right now are using BHO. We just had a young man kill himself in Paradise Park last year using BHO hash. Ted Segai and Keith Kamita tried to, this year, take concentrates off the definition of medical marijuana. Luckily, we were able to defeat that. And they're absolutely right when they say that there's dangers in people trying to use explosive solvents and things to make their medicine. Because right now, like in California and Colorado, these people know how to do this stuff safely. Over here, they're trying to keep up with how medicine, it's called dabs or oil, and it's just the newest way of using the medicine. So my point is you guys need to consider this as well, because they have an extraction using CO2 where it goes supercritical. I love that. It's a gas, a solid, and a liquid all at the same time. Anyway, when it does that, it's able to get rid of all the pathogens as well. And so we were able to establish some kind of system there where, like us as a club, we have vacuum ovens and ways of making medicine to make it clean, but we have no way of actually getting it to people out there that need clean medicine. And so in the meantime, they're trying to make clean medicine, they're blowing themselves up, and they're not doing a very good job at, see, like with butane, you have to be able to purge it. There's lots of things you got to be able to do. They don't know how to do. I'm a chemistry major, I know how to do that. See what I mean? So you're going to need people that actually know what they're doing. See, you know, Ted and Keith were absolutely right. There's a lot of danger in people making their own medicines right now. So you guys are going to have to address that in some way that will satisfy them as well as us.
I'm glad what you just said is on tape, because I think Keith Kamita, hearing you say you agree with something with him.
I totally agree. It is dangerous, but what's really dangerous is the ignorance. You know what I'm saying? It's too late to back up. They got to be able to educate people, not say you can't do it.
Sir, in the back.
In closing, has everybody here seen leafly.com? Leafly, are they good? Is it reputable? I was able to go in there and narrow down the strain from 900 and some strains of cannabis. I was able to narrow down that I don't want it to make me paranoid. I don't want to have scratchy eyes. I don't want to be dizzy, but I want to feel euphoric and I want to feel energetic. And I also just want to feel good. But I can also say I want to feel sleepy. 900 some strains I went down. I really am looking to get some seeds for Mother's Finest.
Okay.
Please.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up because I think the kind of conversations we are having now is probably best if we kind of go offline and you have an opportunity to mingle with the task force members for a little while. We have to kind of clean up the room. We're gonna be getting on our way. But I really want to, before adjourning formally, thank all of you for participating. Again, it was wonderful to see so much good information and feedback to us. We will take this information, share it with our colleagues. And again, just one last thing, I do encourage you to stay involved, to stay engaged, because I think we'll have a better product at the end of the day with this kind of public participation. So with that, aloha, ahui ho, and we are adjourned.